already. Mrs. Buck.
Thank you. So as part of their value for money audit, they will look at things like our risk management arrangements. They will look at things like performance indicators. So I know from last year's audit, they asked for a lot of that information, which we provided as part of their VFM audit. So those are things that they will audit during the year. I mean, we can always ask them to expand on the work they have done in their external audit report when they give their opinion at the end of November. But those are areas that they will look at. Thank you.
Any other questions from councillors? Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, sorry, Lisa, I just want to follow up on that a little bit. I mean, are they going to come and wave a red flag to us when it looks as if something's going wrong? Because that presumably is not their job, but it seems to be very important, because we've got two main kinds of Brazil just brought up, and I've got to agree with them, but we've got two aspects there that look to be not on the best foundation.
If they had any concerns about any of the council's arrangements or services, yes, they would flag that as part of their external audit report. So that would be flagged on an annual basis. Also, the auditors are audited themselves. So I do know that in the last financial year, Grant Thornton, for example, they have several of their clients are picked as a sample, and the work that the auditors have done is then reviewed by another external body and looked at in terms of quality and the level of work they've done, the level of depth that they've gone into. And that was a report that came from, I think it was on the our audit committee agenda last time round, around quality assurance around Grant Thornton's work. So they themselves are audited as well, which is why they do have to do so much work around things like pensions, fixed assets. That's helpful. Thank you.
Mr. Powell. Thank you, Chair. Just to add a little bit more in terms of risk management, there will be the corporate risk register will come to audit committee in September. And also key risks are identified and taken to the executive every quarter through the integrated quarterly management report. So key risks such as waste fusion are within that report, and updates go to the executive where members can challenge the assumptions being made. Thank you, Chair. Any other questions from councillors on this particular issue? So we are being asked to note that we are being informed of the audit risk assessment. Do I have someone propose that? Councillor Brown, seconded. Councillor Taylor, all those in favour?
That's unanimous, thank you.
We now move on to agenda item number 8. Thank you, Mrs. Buckle, for your attendance. It's a shame most of those questions are really better addressed to Grant Thornton than you, but I think you did a good job in defending them on many occasions. Agenda item number 8, the internal audit annual report, to be presented by Councillor Baston.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, could I give the apologies of Councillor Pearce, the leader, who is currently at the LGA conference in Harrogate. As part of the internal audit reporting process, Audit Committee has been receiving updates on the progress made on last year's audit plan. Under the public sector internal audit standards, the head of internal audit is required to present an annual report that provides an opinion that can be used by the council to inform its annual governance statement. Today's report is that annual report, which summarises the work carried out by the internal audit during 2021-22, reviews the performance of the internal audit service, and provides an audit opinion on the adequacy of internal control. Overall, and based on work performed during 2021 and 2022, internal audit is able to provide reasonable assurance on the adequacy and effectiveness of the authority's internal control environment. That is my opening gambit. I have with me today Dominic Measures, who is from the Devon Audit Partnership, Pauline and Lisa Staples as well. I've got plenty of aid here if there are any awkward questions.
Mr. Measures, would you like to speak on the report?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ashton. As already pointed out, this is my annual report that sets out the work that the internal audit team carried out between April 2021 and March 22, and also into the current audit year as we try to finish off the last year's plan. As I've been reporting during the year, COVID has impacted progress, with one of my team members, that's Matt, continuing to assist with the processing of various business grants during various first lockdown and since. Once again, this has left my other auditor to pick up the majority of the planned audits. Now, at this meeting last year, Chair, you put forward the proposal that additional days be provided by Devon Audit Partnership. In the end, we provided 50 days to cover for Matt's absence, and this enabled a number of the audits to be completed or at least commenced. As it stands, 8 of the 41 planned audits have been deferred or not started. This is reflected in the performance stats in the table on page 87 of your papers, which, although shows improvement from the previous year, are still below the target set. However, it's envisaged with Matt's return to the team, performance will further improve back up to target level. It is pleasing to note that we, the other team, only have 1 day sickness during the whole of 12 months, despite pandemics, etc. Under the section Key Findings, as in previous annual reports, I provide details of those audits where our audit opinion falls into one of the 2 lowest categories, that being either limited assurance or no assurance. However, for the 13th year running, we have no audits in the lowest, and for just 4 audits undertaken last year, came back with an audit opinion of limited assurance. As can be seen from Appendix A, since my last progress report in March, we've continued to progress with completing some of the key financial system audits, which saw us issue 4 final reports and 1 report in draft. With regards to those final reports, our findings and responses from officers are at Appendix B. Please note that the squares on Appendix A, the squares indicate the status as reported in previous progress reports, and the ticks indicate the change in status since the last audit committed. As far as the rest of the plan is concerned, at the time of writing this annual report, 1 audit had seen a final report issued, and officers are in receipt of a further 4 draft reports, and we await responses to the recommendations made in them. The fieldwork has been completed on 2 other audits, and the draft reports will be issued to officers in due course. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions from councillors on agenda item number 8? Councillor Spencer.
Wouldn't be right if I didn't ask you something. I read through the reports, and you've echoed today the fact that staff have been taken away, and as a result of that, standards have not been what you would wish them to have been. And when I look at page 81, and I look at the definitions which are on there, 2 in green, 1 in orange, and 1 in what I assume is to be red but is brown, I don't feel comfortable with the ones that sit below the green. And yet we've got quite a number in the heading limited assurance, and like you, very pleased that nothing is in no assurance. But equally, the report talks about audits not finished, and it talks about audits not even started. And because of the staffing situation, I have some concern that that diversion of staff away from your area of the business could potentially pose a risk to the council. And whilst I'm not criticising any individuals or yourself or the department or anything like that, I'm just concerned about how confident we can be as a council that these limited assurance opinions will be improved upon and go up to reasonable assurance or higher, hopefully. How confident you are that we can actually achieve that, and within what time frame that can be achieved. And as I say, I'm not seeking to criticise anyone. I'm just, if anything, criticising council perhaps. But I don't know how big an issue it is. I personally would like to see everything in green, as I'm sure you would. But so that's one question. And the second one leads on from that, which is that in the appendices, we did talk about putting timeframes on these things, and quite a lot of them still don't have timeframes on. And I'm a great believer in the principle of SMART and the T standing for timeframes. So I know that has been raised before, but can timeframes be shown on these so we have some expectation of when they might be delivered? Thank you.
Mr. Measures.
On the first point, I think Lisa and maybe Drew are in a better position as to say how things are progressing. When we received the responses, we were happy and confident that those responses and the intended action were possible, and the timeframes given, and that we felt yes, they could be achieved. As far as the timeframes are concerned, yeah, apologies, they will be make sure that they're put into the reports. I can know whether Lisa, Drew wants to.
Mr. Powell? Oh, Mrs. Buckle.
Thank you, Chairman. So yes, we as the business grants have finished now, the internal auditor that was working on those grants will now be able to progress internal audits in this financial year. So from that point of view, that's good news. We've got more resource now to carry out the internal audits as we've come to the end of the business grants. With regards to the reports that have got the limited assurance, if I just look at those individually, so for example, one of those is around council tax and business rates, and members recently approved for the council to recruit a head of service for revenues, benefits, which includes council tax and business rates. I'm very pleased to report that we were successful in appointing a person to that post who is going to be starting with us in early September. And one of the first things we will do is sit down with the new post holder, go through things that have been highlighted in the internal audit reports, where it's been highlighted that improvements are required, and also to pick up the recommendations that were in the Revenues and Benefits Service Review. So that will be part of their core task, will be to look at that. I think as is acknowledged in page 83 of the report, I think it has been an issue of capacity in the team, that we haven't been able to progress some of the things that we would like to have done. So work around things like discounts reviews of reliefs. And that has really been because of the additional work that the team has had around the business grants, and more recently the administration of the council tax rebate, the £150. That has taken quite a significant amount of resource from the revenues and benefits team, as you can imagine, and therefore the team haven't had the capacity to be able to do work on things like reviews of discounts, reviews of reliefs. We are progressing that work though. We are part of the Devon business rate pool, and as part of the pooling partners, we are looking to have some work done through a company called Analyse Local, that can help us with reviews of reliefs and reviews of discounts. We very recently did a review of single person's discount, so it will be the other sorts of discounts and reliefs that we will be looking to do through Analyse Local. We've already had a preliminary presentation from them, and we will be looking to the new head of service to progress that work, so that yes, by the time we get to next year's audit, hopefully you will be able to see that a lot of this work has been progressed. And I think having the head of service will add capacity to that team to take forward some of these reviews that have been highlighted. With regards to debtors, again, that was another one that had limited assurance. I am looking at how we progress the opportunity to recover some of those debts through the court, and looking at that at the moment. So we've got some legal resource looking at that, about how we progress that through and utilise legal action. I think we have had difficulties in the past with there not being sufficient experience or knowledge about that particular area, but that's something that we are now looking to progress. There was also a point in there about the finance team currently using the Civica Financials, that's our finance system, about migrating to the new version, migrating to what's called the web financials. Mrs. Henstock team, again, they've had meetings with Civica, who are our supplier on that. The difficulty with that is the team feel that the new system has got a lot less functionality than the system we currently use. And therefore we, through the Civica user group, we are asking for some enhancements to that. And at the moment, we've made the decision alongside, in conjunction with our IT colleagues, that we're still going to continue to use the current version because it's got that functionality that we need as a team to operate efficiently. But we are requesting some enhancements to the new system, and we're not alone in this. Other councils are in the same position that use Civica Financials, and I think we're all asking for this additional functionality to be there so that we can migrate all of our users across to web financials. So again, we know that the version we're currently using is going to be unsupported in the future, so we do need to migrate. It's just that we need to migrate at a time whereby we feel the functionality is there and that new system is fit for purpose for us as a team. Also going forward, that there was limited assurance around estates, property and rents, and that was around things like making better use of the Concerto software, and also looking at creating a suite of reports about how we provide effective management information in terms of our property portfolio. So at the moment we do calculate things like occupancy levels and occupancy rates, but again that's work that we will be progressing. I think the other one was around performance management, and I don't know if that's anything that Mr. Powell or Mr. Hawke wants to pick up on. Thank you.
Mr. Powell. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, again, limited assurance around performance management and specifically about data quality. You know, as members know, we've now adopted a performance management framework on the back of Better Lives for All. So now we have thematic updates going to ONS, where ONS can then challenge the performance against the delivery plan. And we have the quarterly integrated performance updates, including risks to the executive. A new suite of KPIs were presented to the last exec, and the first set of data will go to the exec in July. So in terms of the framework, I think that's all in place now. In terms of how we're rolling that out, we've got objectives setting all officers so they understand how they link that, and we're also looking at operational performance indicators at a lower level to support the corporate ones. In terms of data, one of the issues that was pointed out was around the manual I won't say manipulation of data, but the handling of data. So it comes out of the systems and then it's sort of double or treble handled. And then when we go back to say, well, how did we get that figure? There's not a clear trail. So one of the ways to change that is through the new IT systems. So the data will come out from there rather than being handled. And we're also on the back of that, we're updating our data quality strategy in the autumn, and we'll be rolling out training to all staff. So all of the issues that are in the audit and are highlighted will be addressed in the next couple of months. Thank you, Chair.
Do members have any other questions on the internal audit? Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, to thank Dominic and his team, and I think that's particularly impressive to have only 0.25% absence during the 6 months, when the average was 2% or something. I think that should be noted, and congratulations on the team for that. I have to say I'm a bit concerned about the first of all, the internal audit goes in, and we've got a review on the first two, and we talk about the council tax and debtors. I think were the two that we were talking about there. I can't remember exactly. So, and I appreciate that there's been a lot of, with all the business grants and things like that, that's been a very complex area. And again, I mean, I think the council, I mean, I've been dealing mainly with Steve Damon and his team have done a fantastic job in getting the grants out that were needed, and so well done on that. And I'd understand why there's some knock-on effect in some of maybe the council tax or business rates thing. But the other areas, and these weren't reviewed, these weren't that have just come up, these are follow-ups, are estates, property and rents, and the performance indicators. I don't know, but I mean, the fact that we're still struggling with our key performance indicators, that was flagged up before, you've looked at it again and you're still not happy with it. I mean, how any business can be run when you don't know what your key performance indicators are and whether the data is used incorrectly or not? I mean, to me, that's a massive red flashing light, because we've no idea what's going on. I see that at the executive, when is it, next week, that there's going to be a report on the council's achievements or where we are, where we're standing in it. Well, that'll be interesting to read that report, quite frankly, because from where I look at it, things have not been going well. And as a member, I can't access these performance indicators. So how would we know on that? So that's the performance indicators, and then we have the the assets or whatever, estates, property and rents follow up, and I appreciate that you say that it's going in the right direction, but I'm again, I mean, I look at that, and from my experience on Saltham Harbour, when we look at our maintenance programme for our assets that we have there, the fact with introduction of a planned maintenance programme for the investment properties owned by this council, that we don't have one. I mean, that's extraordinary. We've got no asset management plan there at all with these things. I mean, that's an incredibly worrying position for this council to be in. That we don't have regular reviews, that our property portfolio continue to meet the corporate objectives of this council. These are huge gaps in areas, and that we don't seem to. The report comes in that we've got limited assurance on it. So thank you for highlighting these areas, but I think as an audit committee, we need to pick up on these and say, what's going on? Come on, up your game here, people. This isn't acceptable, because I don't think it is, quite frankly. These are follow-up reports. These aren't something that's come to light and then when they've done a report and said this is what we need to do. These are reports that have come to light before. They've done a report, say this is what we need to do. They followed up and said, look, we've still got limited assurance. So I think we need to make sure that on estates, properties and rents and performance indicators, that we need to have a report come back to our next meeting on exactly where we feel that we are with that. And I'd like to see the heads of the departments who deal with those two to come here and answer some of the questions that we may want to put forward to them. Because those, I mean, I'm pretty that they're not the bottom of the pile, but they certainly is something we should be doing something about. Thank you, Chairman.
So you're proposing a recommendation, Councillor? Yeah.
My recommendation, we would propose that at the next audit committee meeting, we have head of assets, and it may be Neil who's listening in on this meeting as far as performance management data is, that they come here and answer questions to the issues that internal audit have again flagged up as sort of limited assurance. I'm sure Darryl will put that in a much more concise.
The date of the next audit committee meeting is the 8th of September. So we would be aiming for the 8th of September.
I mean, that's my proposal, Chair. I mean, I appreciate, you know, other members may feel differently, but I think that these are follow-ups and we've still got limited assurance, so we need to take some action here.
Would members like that on the screen or anything, or are they fairly clear about the proposal that's been put forward?
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Chairman, can I make a comment? We mustn't overlook the fact that our team has paid over £90 million in grants over COVID grants and everything else that goes in, over £90 million. That takes a lot of time. It's not done in one big lump. Investigations got to take place, individuals got to be spoken to, and everything else. And I'm sure that once that's out of the way, which I think Lisa said, is the grants are finished now, that they'll have more resources to get on and do what they need to do. And I can't disagree that we need an update, because that's probably what it is, but we mustn't forget what's already been done within the system during the COVID outbreak. That's hopefully that's disappeared now, but it hasn't really. And because it's £90 million to distribute of somebody else's money, basically, and that takes time.
And continued distribution of other payments as well, which is still continuing on now, isn't it, really? So, councillors, we have a recommendation for the committee. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Spencer seconds. Does any councillor wish to speak to the recommendation before we move to the vote? Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, Chair, I mean, Bernard's absolutely right, and I'm sorry, I was probably clumsy in my wording, but I do think that the team have done incredibly well, and members of the internal audit team have done incredibly well handing out the grants. And I didn't want to say that was what I was worried about. What I'm concerned about is those two other areas, assets and performance indicators, are actually separate from that. I don't know if members of those teams have been pulled off to help with issuing grants, but I doubt it. And so what I'm saying is that they can't all hide behind the COVID, you know, oh, we've had COVID, because I don't think those particular areas do. And if they do, then the heads of the department can tell us and explain to us how and why that has affected their work, and fair enough. But I mean, I just say that I totally agree with Bernard about the handing out of all the grants and everything, and it's not a criticism of that side of it at all.
Mr. White and members, is everyone clear on the recommendation that's being put forward to the committee that the date for the next meeting would be the 8th of September, and we would be asking those heads of departments? So the other recommendation has been proposed and seconded. All those in favour?
That's unanimous, the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Recommendation's passed. Any other questions we have for Mr. Measures or Councillor Baston regarding the internal audit annual report? Any other questions from councillors at all? No. So we are being asked to note and agree to the internal audit annual report. Can I have someone to propose that we note it? Councillor Brown and seconded Councillor Taylor. All those in favour?
That's all unanimous.
Unanimous. So in closing the meeting, I'd like to thank Mrs. Buckle for attending remotely, which is never easy, and for dealing with our questions on a remote basis. I also understand, Mr. Measures, this is the last time you'll be attending an audit meeting, and perhaps you'd like to just say a few words to the committee as to what's happening there.
Yes, thank you, Chair. There's been a slight restructure within Devon Audit Partnership, and I'm being replaced as the audit manager for Southampton West Devon. I'm being moved into a going back to my specialist areas such as procurement, being involved in procurement exercises, system implementations, but also taking on some other large government initiatives such as levelling up, and things like the free port, which obviously involves our hands. So I might still be doing some work for yourselves. One of my colleagues and fellow audit manager, Paul Middlemas, is taking over. He started to take over looking after this year's plan. I finished off looking after last year's. So Paul joined Devon Audit Partnership back in October 20 and has worked with people like the Cabinet Office and the Government Internal Audit Agency and HMRC. he currently looks after our Torridge, Mid Devon, North Devon clients. And so therefore it was thought by bringing all the districts under one manager, it would benefit Devon Audit Partnership in the way we deliver that service to districts, but also actually maybe a benefit to yourselves and West Devon in a way of under one manager, and both yourselves can maybe benefit from some of the synergy that all can bring, and so his insight into how other districts operate. But thank you very much for allowing me to be your internal auditor for the last, I think it's about 6 years.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Measures, for your efforts with the audit committee over the last few years, and I'm sure we'd all wish you well in your endeavours with the council going forward. And with no other business on the agenda, I'll close the meeting at 3:15.